Why do I get so defensive when I'm not even trying to fight? That's something I hear all the time in individual therapy and couples therapy, and it's one of the most common patterns that quietly erodes connection. So, for today's conversation, I want to take a few minutes to unpack what's really happening when you and your partner get defensive, and I'm going to leave you with some practical guidance on what you can start doing differently. When someone gets defensive, what's really going on is that they're experiencing something as a personal attack. Their nervous system hears not what you're saying, but instead, you're the problem. But here's the thing. Most of the time, your partner might not be attacking you. And that's a really important nuance when it comes to identifying what defensiveness is and how it's not really helping you. Now, sometimes, yes, it does sound that way, especially if you've both been stuck in a negative cycle for a while. Maybe they say, you never help, or you always forget. Those are comments of criticism, and they lead you and your partner into a negative communication pattern. But often, what started as a simple expression of need turns into criticism after defensiveness shows up, because defensiveness changes the dance. When you get defensive, it's like you vacuum up everything that your partner says and you make it all about you. You personalize it, you take it to mean that you're not enough. And from that place, of course, your response makes sense. You react. You might start to explain yourself. You might fire back. You might even shut down. And in doing so, the really hard piece here is you stop being relational. The goal in a healthy relationship isn't to be completely in your partner's experience, doing what they want and ignoring yourself. And it's not to live entirely in yours, defending, proving, protecting. It's about finding that we space, the space where both of you exist together. So here's how defensiveness shows up. Defensiveness often sounds like deflection. Well, you do that too. Or it's dismissiveness. That's not what happened. Or even flipping the issue around. I was overwhelmed last night and you didn't help me either. Each of these moments breaks that bridge of connection. And the bridge is what helps you and your partner stay on the same team. Let's talk about what's underneath defensiveness. Because underneath all of that, shame. That small, deep down part that whispers, you're bad, you're not enough, you're failing. That's the part that takes what your partner is saying and fuses it with your own self-worth. So what can you do instead? Here is where I want to leave you 3 things that I regularly teach my clients. 1, I want you to name it, don't act on it. When you feel defensive, say out loud, I'm feeling defensive and I don't want to respond from that place. It's like saying, hey, I'm noticing something in me and I want to do this differently. It's powerful and it keeps the door open. 2, enter their experience. I know this sounds like therapist talk, but it really just means you getting really curious. Try saying, tell me more about that. Or I hear something's going on. Can you help me understand? This shifts you from defending to understanding. 3, take up space. If you're someone who regularly gets defensive, there's a good chance you don't take up enough emotional space in your relationship. You probably hold things in, you might avoid sharing your needs, or you ultimately fear rejection. But when you do that, resentment grows on both sides. And I know this is one of the hardest things, so you need to start small. It might sound like, hey, I'd love 10 minutes to myself tonight. Or, could you take the kids tomorrow morning so I can work out? These small moments help you practice saying, I matter and I need to be in this relationship too. Here is a hard truth. Defensiveness often shows up in people who care deeply but feel unsafe showing it. That sense of unsafety is not necessarily anything that your partner is doing, but rather it's these old messages that they're trying to work through and to create new pathways. But when you get defensive, you break connection, not because you don't love your partner, but because you're protecting yourself. So next time you feel that wall rise up inside of you, try to pause. Don't manage the outcome. Just stay curious, stay open, and remind yourself, this isn't about being right or wrong. It's about being relational. Thank you for hanging out with me from the couch here.